thanks to y'all's generosity, even though we are small, we are mighty, and we raised $300 for our charity, which I can't remember the name of it. What's the name of the charity? I remember Interfaith Children's Movement. Thank you. I remember what it was and what you said about it. Thank y'all very much. So next up, Merry Christmas. Come on.
All right.
Y'all, this is Andy Offutt Irwin. He's from Covington. He tells stories and plays guitar, and he thinks he's funny.
Well, because I've been introduced, have to do audience training. Good grief. So George, this is the least favorite song of everybody I know. This is if Tom Waits wrote a complaining children's song. So. It grows on old trees that parasites host. It's got slimy white berries. But what I hate the most is the way my mama acts when she hangs it from the ceiling. She sighs with that Yuletide romantical feeling. So gather round, children, with your Captain Crunch and toast. Soon you'll all agree with me, mistletoe is gross. Those slimy white berries, they're in birds' droppings. Wait, no, that's the wrong verse. Okay, because you know we can do this because anyway. Not named for a rocket or an appendage on your feet. I need to be discreet next time you pucker up underneath of where it's hung. Remember, missiles Anglo-Saxon for dumb. Now it isn't my fault. What I just said, it comes from research and stuff I've read. Maybe that's why some people want to ban books. A lot of non-readers are literary crooks, and I know that's beside the point, and I'm getting verbose, cause I'm just here to tell you that mistletoe is gross. Sing along if you like. Those slimy white berries, they're in birds dropping, yep, scat from the skies. And there's no stopping those berries from dripping down on the limb. Then the stems do rise and it starts again. And the tree's getting weaker, and I know I'm morose, but I'm just a truth speaker, and mistletoe is gross. Grandma saw me pick it up. She said, those berries are poison. She laid down her coffee cup and repeated a noise on safety and danger and caution and such. Then she wagged her finger saying, do not touch. It'll make your vision blurred. You'll get nauseated. It'll stop your heart and your lungs will be deflated. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and adios. Mistletoe is deadly and mistletoe is gross. No. I shouldn't whistle, cause this song's too sad. And if that bugs you, Lena's Place audience, then that's just too bad. Such a happy sound is just too jocose, and I know you're sick of this song, and the ending is getting close. Cause I think of that poor tree as its nutrients osmose into the ground, falling oh so silently. Because I know you guys are liberal arts majors if you went to college, and so you've studied philosophy, so you know that if a tree falls in a forest and a person's not there to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. Except, where's Kathy? I know she's here. She's an amphibian person. Kathy's here. I mean, isn't that specious? I mean, what the little birdies hear it, one little bunnies hear it, one little squirrelies hear it, one little chick monkeys hear it? Yeah. Mistletoe is good. Worst song I ever wrote. That's not, this is louder. Thank you, Paul, for doing sound. Clap. I know this. All right. Shout out to McKibben Music in Covington, Georgia. A dude is working on my guitar. My guitar has been repaired 5 times. It's been rode hard and put up wet. I was a camp counselor, in my 30s. And I fell on it in 1986 and a half, and I broke the headstock off. It's been repaired for a car wreck. It's been repaired because it had a crack here and here and here. And if it broke, if it didn't take out my eye, if it happened during a show, I could look at the audience and go, what? And this plastic part is coming off, and I'm repairing it myself with coffee stirrers. Redneck luthier. This is true. But this is a loan from McKibben Music because the fellow who's working on my guitar got ill, and I walked into Mac McKibben's store, and I said, Mac, I got an emergency, and he took this off the wall, this very nice Fender guitar, and this is the exciting, the President of the United States is now in guitar gear. This is the Trump capo. It's gold. This is pure gold. So I stole this song from the Bible. Okay, forgot what I was going to do. It's an Epiphany song. Anybody know the date of Epiphany? We're not supposed to say that. To him the wise man gave these things, to him who would be king, gold and myrrh and frankincense. These are the gifts they did dispense. On the day that they did visit, the Lord is 12 days old. What use had he for these strange gifts? Well, maybe the gold. What good is frankincense to those who live in turbulence? To these wise men did it not occur? Only the dead need the myrrh. On the day that they did visit, the Lord was 12 days old. What use had he for these strange gifts? Well, maybe the gold. Joseph, listen to me. Herod has made a death decree. Across the border you've got to flee. Y'all are bound to be refugees. On the day that they did visit, the Lord was 12 days old. What use had he for these strange gifts? Well, maybe the gold. For hate, food, and lodging, the gold. On the day they did visit, the Lord was 12 days old. What use had he for these strange gifts? Well, maybe the gold. I was a stranger and you took me in. The Lord says this to us women and men. He asked not for frankincense or gold, but to be like him and be bold. In grace and mercy co-written with Bill Lepp, who can't sing. Bill Lepp, storyteller, named one of the 50 good things by the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce, named one of the 50 good things in West Virginia. But it was West Virginia. It's true. All right. My Aunt Marguerite, some of you know. Okay, I just got to shout out. Aunt Marguerite. There are a bunch of people here. I want to shout out a lot of people. There's Jerry and Laurie, and there's Sundai, who is one of my best friends in show business in the history of time. Chris Moser's here, and Chris was present when Apple Boy, my only puppet, Apple Boy, did Pledge Drive for public television under the Chris, and it was great, and people complained. They called it, said, get rid of the apple. And just a bunch of you, from when I came back from the dark years at Walt Disney World, and I was welcomed at Lena's place at the Freight Room, so I'm just, and none of you have changed a bit. All right, I'll start over. My Aunt Marguerite's 85 years old and only recently graduated from medical school.
Well, my best friend Mary Frances and I, our husbands have passed on, and we were tired of the Bridge Club and the Garden Club, so we went back to medical school. We serve two purposes in our community. We're hospice for people who won't admit it. Usually very conservative people, because the first time a lot of people ever heard the word hospice was from Bill Moyers on the PBS, so they think death and dying is a liberal issue. And we're the emergency room for the ashamed, like Ray McFarlane has the asthma. That's not funny. And he carries an albuterol inhaler in his pocket. You know, when he was driving one day, he had an episode, and but he had a Sucret lozenge in the barrel there. And it got caught in his esophagus. And it wasn't going to dissolve because it was still in the wrapper. And he drove to our hospital. We have our own little hospital. It's an antebellum home in the unfortunate neighborhood. But it has two magnolia trees on the side, so we only have to paint the front. But we had the porte cochere there, you know, and when Gene Cannon retired from his Pure Oil station, we bought his air hose bell. Young people don't know what that is. And kang, kang, oh, we have an emergency, let's see who it is. Now, I went to Irwin, and we're inside the perimeter of Atlanta, so I don't have to explain that, but when Andy goes out west, people go, what, they don't have a football team? So, but Mary Frances now, she went to the Georgia College of Medicine in Augusta, and there's nothing wrong with it. And she practices the holistic medicine, things you might not read about in the physician's desk reference or the New England Journal. So she went to the kitchen of our hospital and she pulled out her favorite hot sauce. It's called Scorned Woman. And she poured it in a little pill cup. You know the little pill cup? Like if you go to Chick-fil-A and you put your ketchup in it, none of y'all go there, so you don't know what I'm talking about. But this is a medical supply, so it's $40. And she said, drink this down. He was healed.
So that's Marguerite. Marguerite loves liberty enlightening the world. And the reason she loves liberty enlightening the world is she loved her great uncle Leopold Mendelssohn. And when she was a little girl, she rode her bike to school. It wasn't far at all. And she would always go to her great uncle Leopold Mendelssohn's house every time. And she entered the home in the tradition of people entering a home. Not too long ago, I was doing a gig with the Kuniko Yamamoto in Philadelphia. And she said, she's from Osaka. She said, in Japan, there's a word that people use when they enter a home and they're welcome, but they don't live there. But there's no such word in English in the United States, and I had to follow her and correct her, which was a little embarrassing for her to say, I'm sorry, Kuniko, there is such a word. In the tradition of my people, that word is woo. So Marguerite would enter my great uncle Leopold Mendelssohn, he go, to woo, And he would always say the same thing every time. Marguerite, little one, come free the imprisoned lightning. And he would be in his den, his heart pine den. He'd be in a leather wingback chair. He had his foot on an ottoman fan. And he had a smoking stand. Yes, there's smoking in this story. He had a smoking stand, and on that smoking stand was a Liberty Enlightening the World cigar lighter. Now, Liberty Enlightening the World is the proper name given to what we generally call the Statue of Liberty. But that was the name she was given. And this is a beautiful thing, man. It's about yay high, and it has the tablet, of course, the torch, and you pull the tablet down, and the torch lights up. So cool. And he would hold it still as she would, and he would say, "You did it! You freed the imprisoned lightning! Yay!" And they would clap and cheer. She loved her great uncle Leopold Mendelssohn. Every time he'd say, "Would you like some ice cream?" She'd say, "Yes, sir." Now, how did Marguerite come to have Marguerite from Georgia? I mean, Marguerite is third generation. I'm sixth generation. That's why my head's so small. How did she come to have a great uncle named Leopold Mendelssohn? Well, he was born in Germany, and he was Jewish, and his family got on a ship and were in steerage. He was so scared. His mother was sick the whole journey. She was holding him so much all the time. It hurt. And finally he remembers, everybody started cheering and coming up on the deck, and there it was, in the sunlight, he squinched his eyes, and there she was in the harbor, Liberty, enlightening the world. And the grown-ups were laughing and screaming and crying all at the same time. It's his first memory. Being on that ship and seeing Liberty is his first memory. It's the most astonishing thing he had ever seen in his life. And it remained the most astonishing thing he ever saw the rest of his life. Well, that's the beginning of Uncle Leo. And you know, he worked and worked and worked. Grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And he, as soon as he could, man, he was selling papers. And then he worked on the docks. And he kept half of the money he made. He gave the rest to his family. And when he turned 18 years old, like a lot of men, he went to seek his fortune. He bought a Model T truck, tricked it out to live in, and he made his way down the eastern seaboard. As he made his way, he got in with some retailers who were, wholesalers rather, who were to be a retailer to sell to farmers and farmers' wives. And that's one of those immigrant stories, right? That's why there are a bunch of Patels who run motels, because the Patels talk to each other. That's why in Ireland, you know, the Irish in New York became the 3 Ps: policemen, politicians, and priests. That was the tradition. Chinese laundries. And so there's a tradition in the South. That's where he was going to go. He wanted to make his way to the South. It's warmer there. And he made his way into our little town. And he went around the square 3 times. And when he went around the square, he saw a jewelry store for sale. Jones Jewelry. Now, he didn't know that the Joneses were a founding family. He just knew there was a jewelry store that was empty, it was for sale. And he went, cupped his eyes over the glass, saw the sign, and went to the payphone, put in a nickel, called Mr. Fetter Realty. "I'm looking at this jewelry store here." Mr. Fetter had never talked on the phone to anybody sounding like that. So, "All right, can we look at it right now?" "Oh, yeah, we can." It wasn't hard. Mr. Fetter just had to cross the square. And the two of them went through the store. You know, it was dingy, the way an empty store is. The walls were faded where there used to be, you know, pictures and signs. But behind the counter, all the way in the back of the store, there were all the tools that you would need to work on watches and jewelry. And everything was there. Even the glasses with the swing-away magnifying glasses. And my great-great-uncle Leo said, "How much?" Had a younger voice. "How much?" "Well, hold on now. We need to talk about your credit and your character." My great-great-uncle Leo said, my credit's perfect. My character's better." And they went back and forth, and my great-great-uncle Leo knew enough about this place to know how much it would be. And they agreed on a price. He said, "Wait here." And he went to his truck and came back with 3 money bags. And he paid cash for that store. And that's who my great-great-uncle Leo is. Marguerite and great Uncle Leo were together. Would you like some ice cream? Yes, sir. And they went into the kitchen, and there were 2 crystal bowls. Now, these were treasures. There used to be a whole set of these, but these are the only ones left, and it's just for them for their ice cream. My great Uncle Leo loved to serve the ice cream, the vanilla ice cream, and he'd pull out the Hershey's syrup in the can opened by a church key. This is an old audience. And he loved to make her do this. He would pour some on that. She'd go, more. Pour some on, more. A whole lot. Why do you want more all the time? She always said the same thing. He delighted in it. It makes it more better. And they'd go back into the den, and she'd sit on the ottoman fan and tell him about her day and what was going on in her life. And then sometimes they would get quiet, just to eat, because they were so close they didn't need to chit-chat the whole time. Across from his chair was a painting, an idyllic scene, a beautiful painting. There was a dog nursing pups in a farmyard. Little white cracks all through it. It's very old. And she was staring at the painting once. And he looked at her staring at it. And he said, "You like that painting?" "Yes, sir." "What do you suppose that dog's name is?" And she thought of a word that she had learned in Sunday school from her good Sunday school teacher, Miss Charlotte. A little word she loved and still does. She said, steadfast. "I think that dog's name is Steadfast." And my great Uncle Leo said, "You're right! The name of the dog is Steadfast. In fact, the painting is called Steadfast Guarding Her Chickens. You're so smart. Yay!" She knew he was kidding her, but he was not teasing her. And kids know the difference. She was looking at the painting another day, and she said, "Why does it have those white cracks?" She didn't really like the cracks. He goes, "Oh, that painting, you know, when we got here to the United States, my mother missed it and she wanted it. And I had to work really hard. I had to send a whole lot of telegrams and letters. And that painting, it had to go through Norway, and then it spent some time in Sweden. And it's not good for a painting to be on ships and have all that humidity and salt air." She would figure that out. Why? Later. Great Uncle Leo opens the store. Young man, nobody knew him. He didn't change the name. I asked him once, oh, by the way, I got to tell you this. My great Uncle Leo was born a week before Irving Berlin and died 2 weeks after Irving Berlin died. He was 101. When he was on his deathbed, he said, "How can I outlive the greatest songwriter of all time?" I had to call him great Uncle Leo. I said, "Why do I have to call you great Uncle Leo?" "Andy, I'm that great." So he opened the store. He had a trick. He got in, nobody knew who this guy was. He was, in Covington, people were like, "Who's that Yankee at the store?" You know how they are. Outside the perimeter, that's the way they talk. And, he had a trick. In the front glass window on the right side, he got in with Adam's Practical Joke Company. And that drew in kids and teenagers. Now we're talking about the real stuff. We're talking about joy buzzers made out of metal like God meant for them to be. We're talking about real dribble glasses made of real glass. We're talking the classics, the whoopee cushion. Oh yes. It's always better to put it under a pillow than just on top. Okay, you got to hide it, people. Work on your techniques. And my favorite was disappearing ink. Now, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Davis, did not believe in ballpoint pens, although they existed. And we had to write with Schaefer fountain pens. And in our school supplies, we had to always have, you know what I'm talking about, the cheap, they're like 75 cents. And you could see the inside, of the barrel there because it had the cartridge. And then we had to bring vials of bleach because the ink was washable blue. And we could that's what we were supposed to. We had little white stains and holes all in our clothes. And my Uncle Leo showed me the disappearing ink. "Oh, you like this watch?" And he wrote with it. And he goes, "And it's gone." I said, "That's cool." And so I bought some. At a discount, of course. And then I had a better idea for it because Marcy Robertson sat behind me and I was talking to her a little animated one time. She didn't want to talk to me and I went like that. Dots went across her blouse. Now, she was a perfect person. 12 years of perfect attendance. That ain't right. And Marcy, with the ink across her blouse, ran out into the hallway to the restroom without permission. And she got in trouble. When she got to the bathroom, she looked in the mirror. It was gone. I went back to the store one day. He said, did you use the disappearing ink? And I told him what I did. And he went, oh, Andy, I'm so proud of you. Well, he took to going to the library. He loves to read, and he loved to read. And there was a librarian there, a young woman who worked there named Lily Cook, my great-great-aunt. And he asked her to recommend a book to him, and she did. And then it turned out that they would read the same books for a while. And the store opened at 10, and so did the library. And before those places opened, he would meet her, and they would go for walks together around the square. They'd go and get coffee and an egg sandwich at the drugstore. The rumors began, best kind of rumors that are true. And one day he knelt before her and asked her to marry him. And that's how I had a great-great-uncle Leo, Leopold Mendelssohn. I asked him once, when I was pretty young, I said, so did you have to go through Ellis Island? Of course. Did you have to change your name? No. Everyone already had Mendelssohn in their piano benches. 6th grade. Marguerite was in 6th grade. She came in the door so excited. Woo-hoo! And she told him what had happened in school that day. And that day, Mrs. Patterson, the very patriotic history teacher, said, boys and girls, I want you to do a big project on a symbol of America. Everybody pick 3 things that you want. Write why you want to do that symbol in complete sentences. Remember complete sentences? Yes. In complete sentences with your Schaefer fountain. So she was very excited, and she only chose one thing. And she wrote, I would like to do a project on liberty enlightening the world because my great Uncle Leopold Mendelssohn beheld her in the harbor when he immigrated to the United States. It may have been the beheld that did it. And Marguerite was awarded to do a project on liberty enlightening the world. Woo-hoo! Guess what? What is it? Wait, I can do a project on liberty enlightening the world. That's wonderful! I can have a grown-up help me. That's wonderful! Will you help me? Of course! Can we make a paper-mache liberty? Of course! Can we put a candle in it like your lighter? No. It's imprisoned lightning. And they did. They made that paper-mache liberty. And Marguerite's friend Mary Frances came over to help and heckle. And it was wonderful. It was 2.5 feet tall. And it was worthy of being photographed with the Brownie camera. And I've seen that photograph, and it's astounding, and it's hideous. Well, great-great-uncle Leo and great-great-aunt Aunt Lily, I know who I'm talking about. I know who I am now, too. They had 2 daughters. The eldest daughter decided she wanted to be Jewish, but the youngest daughter decided she wanted to be Methodist. And while this was all happening, when they had these kids, the Rotary Club said, hey, y'all, look, we're Rotary International. He's from Germany. We ought to ask him. That's outside the perimeter for ask. And our Rotary Club has been doing that for a while. Very recently, Dr. Wu, the ophthalmologist, is now a Rotarian. There was a mix-up for a while because Dr. Wu would be in the Chinese restaurant. Our Chinese restaurant is called Hunan Gluttony Bar. See, they're afraid to laugh at this one. I know it. I feel. And the Rotarians would come in and see him in the restaurant and say, "Hey, Dr. Wu, keep your seat, keep your seat, keep your seat." Well, Dr. Wu, just learning his English, thought keep your seat is what men said to each other to greet one another. So he would be down the streets. He'd go, "Hey, Robbie, keep your seat, keep your seat." So all the white guys thought that was Mandarin Chinese, and that lasted about 3 years. But that's not what I came here to tell you. What I came here to tell you is Uncle Leo joined the Rotary Club, and then he would go to the First United Methodist Church. It was not united back in those days, but it is now. I'm happy to report. Yeah, and and like this church, the floor is raked from the front to the back. But it was built in 1854, and the pine floors from the 7th pew from the front. My family's been there the whole time that building's been there. You can see the heel marks of my foremothers. And when his daughter was in the kids' choir, he would go to church. He would stand when everybody stood. He'd sit down. He didn't sing. He didn't recite the Apostles' Creed. But he smiled, and everybody in my town grew to love my great-great-uncle Leopold Mendelson. Marguerite maintained this relationship with the Atlanta family. And my great-great-uncle Leo's great-great-granddaughter, Rose. You know, there are these people that you're related to that you just become attached to, even if you're not really closely related. Marguerite and Rose were great pals. And Marguerite's house borders the cemetery. She has a walk-through gate that she says that she put herself, but if you look at it, you can tell I did it because it's not level. And every once in a while, Rose would call, and Marguerite and Rose would have lunch, and then they'd go out into the cemetery, and Marguerite would show Rose all the new people in the cemetery. And Marguerite, on her travels, would always find a rock somewhere, see the rock, and as soon as you pick up a rock and regard it, that's when it becomes a stone. Don't look that up. And they would always have a stone. In that Jewish tradition, they would always put a stone on the tombstones, and visit. And just Marguerite and Rose just were great pals. 2.5, 3 generations away from each other. Rose sent Marguerite an email. "Benjamin is having his bar mitzvah. Would you like to come?"
Of course, I would love to come.
"Shall I send you an Uber?"
Absolutely not.
Now, we're from Covington, and especially when I was young, coming to Atlanta is an event. We just didn't, I was going to the big city. I mean, up until I was 12, I couldn't come to Atlanta without wearing a tie and a coat, because y'all are decent people. But she got in her 1968 Plymouth Fury, which is the last car my Uncle Charles gave her before he died. He hasn't given her any cars since. And she drove on I-20. She got off on Moreland. She hung a left on Ponce. She put her hand over her heart when she passed the Majestic. Because my Uncle Charles and my Aunt Marguerite, when they were young, they would go to movies. They'd go to the picture show. Sometimes they would go to a play.
And then we would go to the Majestic. It was open 24 hours. Can you imagine such a thing? And we would eat. We wouldn't get there till 11:30, and sometimes we'd stay there until 1 in the morning, and they didn't care.
And she arrived at Rose's house, and she lives in Virginia Highlands. And Marguerite was excited about going to see Benjamin, and everybody called him Benny. And she rang the doorbell, and Benny answered the phone, and she said, "Hello, Benny." He said, "Hey, great cousin Marguerite," which he loves to call her. And he said, "My name is Ben or Benjamin. I am a man now."
Duly noted. And since you're a man, I have a gift I want to give you before your mama catches me.
She reached in her pocket, and she handed a case pocket knife, BK, engraved on the hilt, because his last name is Katz.
Now this is a real knife, and the most important thing about a young man carrying a real knife is you make sure that it's not in your pocket or your backpack when you go to the airport.
And Benjamin said, "Duly noted, come on in." And she went in, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. And then they all carpooled to the synagogue, and Benjamin read from the Torah, and the men were issued yarmulkes. The non-Jewish men, the Gentiles were issued yarmulkes with his name inside, like a Methodist wedding napkin. And it was just so joyous. And they returned to the house, and everybody's starting to say their goodbyes, and Marguerite sought out Rose and said, Rose, I've had such a lovely time, and Benjamin, I've had such a... And Rose said, hey, do me a favor. Would you hang back and tarry a little while? Just wait for me in the den. I have something for you. Oh, all right, of course. And Marguerite went into the den, and her feet were tired. She sat down on the floor, on the sofa, and there, above the fireplace, was the painting. The dog nursing the pups in the farmyard with the chickens. Marguerite was so happy to see it. She stood up and she walked over to it and just was staring at it when Rose came in with a plant and touched Marguerite on the shoulder. Marguerite startled. And Rose said, oh, I'm sorry, I scared you. Oh no, I'm just looking at steadfast gardening for chickens. Rose said, you know the name of this painting? Marguerite said, I suppose I do. Rose said, Great-grandpop said one of his favorite little girls named this picture. Did he now? I have something for you. It's a citrus fruit. It's a citron, which is a citrus plant, and it's traditional to use those in the ceremony of the Sukkot. It's the time of harvest in the Jewish tradition, and I just thought you would like this plant. It's from my tradition. Rose, I'm so moved. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. That old woman and that young woman hugged. Marguerite went home. Middle of December, about this time, Marguerite got another email. I would love for you to come for a small dinner gathering. I would love to come, and yes, I type with an accent. Shall I send you an Uber? Of course not. I can drive to Atlanta by myself. So she got in her 1968 Plymouth, but she brought Rose a plant too from her faith tradition. She arrived at Rose's house, but no other cars were there. I mean, she was pretty sure it was the right day, and she was right on time. She wasn't early, she wasn't late. Where was everybody? And she got the plant, which she had seat belted in the car like you do, treating it like beer or something. And she went to the door and rang the doorbell, and Rose answered and said, hey, you made it. Where's everybody? Oh, I said it was a small dinner gathering. Oh, it's just the two of us. I am so pleased. And Rose was pleased too. They hugged. And she was in an apron. Because you know what, people invite you to dinner nowadays. Young people, listen. People invite you to dinner, and then they're not through cooking. And Rose has a house that was built in the 1920s, but you know how young people, they hated walls. They tore out all the walls. And the kitchen and the living room is in the same place. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Sugar? Yeah, the kitchen's is right there. How does a wife turn to a husband and say, I need to talk to you in the kitchen right now? Well, Rose was in her apron, and she saw the plant. She said, oh, thank you. And Marguerite said, now, you don't say the name of this plant, because if you do, you'll be wrong. Rose knows how to listen to her elder. She said, yes, ma'am. This is the flor de noche buena. That's Spanish for the flower of the good night. Now, that's what these people call this plant with the red petals. Now, there was once a man from South Carolina who was the ambassador to Mexico who thought so highly of himself that he saw these plants. His name was Poinsett. He named them after himself and brought them to the United States and acted like he had invented it all by himself. But it's actually the flor de noche buena, flower of the good night. And in Mexico, the good night is what they call Christmas Eve. Everybody go, oh,
good, I'm proud of you. And so, and this is the story of the Flor de Noche Buena. There was once a girl named Pepita, a little girl who was very poor, and she was on her way to the good night service, the Noche Buena. But she was poor, and you're supposed to bring a gift for the Christ child. She didn't have anything. She started to cry. Why, won't have anything for the Christ child? Well, an angel of the Lord appeared before her. Now, we don't know which angel it was. It could have been lo. It could have been behold. That's right. And he said, now, why are you crying, children? I'm paraphrasing. Why are you crying, children? She goes, I don't have a gift for the Christ child. Oh, you hush now. Listen, do what I tell you. Go pick up some weeds. Just pull up some weeds over yonder on the side of the road. Why? Just do what I tell you. Pull up those weeds and you take them to the altar. Everybody will laugh. I'm an angel. Do what I say. And so she pulled up those weeds and she was supposed to take them to the altar, but the angel was gone. And so she took those weeds up there. I said, what's Pepita doing? My goodness. And she left them on the altar. And by the end of the service, those beautiful leafy red petals appeared. And it was a Christmas miracle. And that's what Marguerite was saying to Rose. And Rose said, I love that. I love this. Thank you so much. And Rose took the potted plant. Now, in her kitchen, she has a big sill and a big plate glass window, and behind you can see her backyard. It's beautiful. Azaleas all around with a dogwood tree in the middle. And of course it was bare because it was December. And Marguerite sat down. Have y'all ever seen granite countertops? Why? Granite is for gravestones and gravel. And I sat there. And, you know, on a stool, the stool was fine, I liked it actually. But I put my arms in, you know, they're designed to suck all the body heat out of you. It's so easy to care for, I don't care. And, well, when she did that, she had a chill, the kind of chill that my grandmother would used to call a rabbit rounding over your grave. And she did one of those, and when she did that, there on the sill by the window, she saw two petals go through the window and light on the tree. And she went, ah! And when she went, ah! Rose turned to look at what it was, and there on the tree was a cardinal. And Marguerite said, I'm such an old fool. I had a chill, and I could have sworn two petals went through the window, and it's a cardinal. Rose said, maybe that's what happened. I have something for you, something I want to give you, something I've ruined. Marguerite said, thank you very much. And Rose left the room and came back with a brown flat package in brown paper, jute twine. She said, open that up. Marguerite undid the twine and moved the leaves, and there it was, steadfast guarding her chickens. And Marguerite said, Rose, this is too much. This is too... Who are the cracks? Well, you know I like to paint, and I thought, you know, I bet I can fill in the cracks, and you know, I bet I can match the glossiness and the hue and everything, and I think I was doing pretty well. And then a friend of mine saw it, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm filling this in." She goes, "No." And then she has a friend who works for the High Museum of Art, and she called her over, and we looked at it together. She goes, "This is a Daniel Maurice Oppenheim. This is worth 5, maybe 6 figures, and you've ruined it. I can't. And I'm so sorry. I've ruined it. I'm so sorry." And Marguerite said, "You have done no such thing. You have not ruined this. I never liked those cracks. You've made it better. And I've never received a gift like this in all of my life. Thank you, Rose. Thank you." And that old woman and that young woman hugged once again. And then, woo! Benjamin entered the front door. He had been at a debate society meeting, and Marguerite was glad she didn't have to debate that kid. And he said, "Hey, great cousin Marguerite. Hello, great cousin Benjamin." He said, "Okay,
I need to know what we're called. What kind of kin are we?
We're called kin who love being kin.
I like that. He gave her a hug. And he goes, there's that painting. I was wondering, where are the cracks?
Your mother made it better for me, and she's giving it to me. Is that all right with you? He's taller. I make him too small. He's about 14. Is that all right with you? He's 13. You know what I'm talking about. Pay attention. Andy, listen to yourself now. Is that all right with you? I'm going to keep this. Is that all right?
Of course it is.
Good. I'll leave it for you in my will.
And then Rose said, I have a consolation prize for you. She reached under the counter and she brought up an old Mr. Boston box. You're going to be disappointed. She lifted it away, and there it was. The Liberty Enlightening the World cigar lighter. And Marguerite said,
it's great Uncle Leopold's lighter. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Rose. Thank you.
and she was laughing, and she hugged Rose, and Benjamin said, what is that? And Rose said, well, son, we don't smoke. It's been in the attic, and it's not exactly our taste.
Marguerite said, and your mother's assuming that it's my taste.
And then Marguerite said to Benjamin,
Benjamin, this is what you call an heirloom. It belonged to your great-great-grandfather, and then it belonged to your great-grandmother, who passed it on to her grandmother. I can't remember everybody, but listen, your mother hid it away. She's bequeathed it to me, and now I bequeath it to you. But before you take her, I want you to listen to me carefully.
that kid knew what that meant. Yes, ma'am.
This is liberty enlightening the world. Do you know how we got liberty?
Benjamin said, gift from France, right?
That's right. She was a gift from France. There was a man named Edward de Lebulle who was a abolitionist, and he was so impressed with the United States for emancipating enslaved people that he said, we need to give the United States a great big present. Isn't that wonderful? Can you imagine being in a country so great that another country wants to give us something so colossal? And so he said, you know, we need to give them something like really big. So he called up his friend Frederick Bartholdi. He said, make me a big statue. Frederick Bartholdi called up his friend Gustave Eiffel. Have you ever heard of Gustave Eiffel? I know you have. I'm asking this little boy right over here.
That was just rude, wasn't it? He said, like Eiffel Tower?
That's right. Before he made the Eiffel Tower, he made her innards. That's how she can stand up. Well, they called up the president, and President Grant said, oh, you know what? There's an island in the New York harbor that would be perfectly suitable for her. But then, you know, the United States, we were tasked with raising money for her pedestal. That's only fair. If France is going to go to the trouble to send her over here, we need to have a place to put her. So people started giving money. And Mr. Pulitzer, the newspaper man, he started publishing people's names in the paper. That was back when your name in public was a big deal. And people would send $1, $2, $5, and he put their name in the paper. And people started raising more money and raising more money. Isn't that wonderful? Now, Benjamin, look at her feet. Huh? Look at her feet. What do you see? Describe everything.
Her right foot is lifted up.
That's right. She is moving forward. When I was a little girl, your great-great-grandfather used to put chocolate syrup on the ice cream until he would say, why do you want so much chocolate syrup? And I would say, make it more better. That's grammatically ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
More is a word of action, isn't it?
Sure is.
You know what's more grammatically ridiculous? More perfect. But that's what she's doing. She's moving to a more perfect union. And he said, are those chains? That's right. She is breaking out of chains and shackles. Y'all go look at her feet sometime. There they are. She is breaking away. She is emancipated. All of us are emancipated when the enslaved people were emancipated. Always remember this. Well, people understood that since she's in the harbor, when people are emigrating here, that the people who are emigrating would see her. And the meaning would change. And everybody understood that. But there was a poet named Emma Lazarus who really understood that. And she wrote a poem that's at the base of liberty. And that poem reads, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridge harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries sea with silent lips. Bring us your tide, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my light beside the golden door. May we all remember that and spread that around a bit. And may we all remember to listen to the greater angels of our nature.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the charities. I think this kind of all works together, doesn't it? It's kind of neat. Thank you so much. All kinds of folks in this world. I know I'm preaching to this particular weird UCC choir, etc. But we all have good work to do. This is a song I made up to go with that story, and by a weird coincidence, this was October 6th, 2023, when I presented this song for the first time at the National Storytelling Festival. And it was around midnight, and it was already October 7th in the Middle East. So it's a strange little coincidence. Noah Baum is a colleague and a friend of ours, and a friend of mine. She's from Israel. She lives in Washington, D.C. I called her and I told her that I was going to be using a word from her faith tradition, and that word is l'chaim. She's from Israel, as I said, and she goes, maybe it's actually pronounced l'chaim, l'chaim. And being Israeli, she doesn't know how to pronounce it. So, because I learned, I lean towards Jackie Mason in American Yiddish. So, the song's called A Methodist L'chaim. There's a part where you get to sing L'chaim real loud when the time comes. When you wet my whistle. Thank you, Sendai, my dear friend, for inviting me. And ask me, I'm not even hinting her, just ask me how old I am. Ask.
How old are you?
I'm so old I sell CDs. I do have CDs.
We're so old we buy them.
I do have some cards and some CDs in the back, and I'm available for blah, 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 smooth, 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 all that stuff. This Georgia Methodist boy wants to leave you with a prayer, a reminder of sorts, that no matter where your travels take you, or who you may meet, there's a toast you can share, a reminder of how sweet this life and this time is strong you and down. So as long as we're here, as long as we're riding in the high.
fun, it's sweet. Lift the burden from your hearts and wash someone's feet. If you have kites in your attic, go fly 'em with children in your neighborhood. What's the reason? I'm still confused because in my faith we are not used to a toast and a prayer mean to say. Y'all, a proper toast is a prayer by another name. Wants to leave you with a prayer, a reminder of sorts. That no matter where your travels take you, or whom you may meet, there's a toast you can share around how sweet is life. And this time, it's trying to that. So as long as we're here, as long as it's all about him. Sing for me! Again! One more time! Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and Terry, and our lovely Jonathan. Everybody who came and helped tonight. Thank y'all so much for being here tonight, helping us raise money and for our lovely charity. And we hope to see y'all next year. Have a lovely holiday season and good night.